Today we're going over the top 10 abandoned places in New Jersey. There are hundreds if not thousands of abandoned places in New Jersey, so make sure you like if you want to see a part 2. Today the list is going to start easy, and the spots are going to get cooler and cooler as the list goes on. I must say this for legal reasons, but I do not recommend going to any of these places. Trespassing is illegal and you can be punished to the full extent of the law. With that being said, the first spot on our list is Slyke Castle ruins in Wanaque. Built in the early 1990s, Slyke Castle transitioned through multiple owners until the final blow to the property came when vandals burned the mansion in 1959. Large portions of the castle, pool, and water tower can still be explored today. William Porter, a stockbroker, built the place in the early 1900s. He named the property Foxcroft, as it was built on Fox Hill. Porter died in a car crash in 1911, while his wife, Ruth, was traveling home from a European vacation. Ruth later married Warren Slyke. The couple changed the mansion's name to Slyke Castle and used it as a vacation home. Ruth retreated there permanently after Warren passed away in 1925. Ruth died in 1940, leaving the castle without an owner for 9 years. It was finally purchased in 1949 by a couple who subsequently resold the property 2 years later to Suzanne S. Christie. She abandoned it shortly after. McMyler Coal Dumper in Woodbridge Township. This enormous device was built in 1917. It is located at the former eastern terminus of the Reading Railroad on the Arthur Hill. Seriously damaged by fire in 1951, the apparatus was repaired and it remained in use until 1982, but now it sits abandoned. Fort Hancock in Highlands. Fort Hancock is a former United States Army fort at Sandy Hook. Built in 1859, the coastal artillery base was decommissioned in 1974. Portions of the base remain intact, and the oldest working lighthouse in the nation stands on its ground. The fort was active for over 100 years, but most was utilized during World War II, hosting over 7,000 residents. These residents included members of the Women's Army Corps along with African American soldiers. This was fairly significant as the military had not officially been desegregated yet. The fort housed a number of defense systems to protect our coast, including cannons, barbette guns, anti-aircraft guns, and Nike missiles. From 1874 until 1919, Sandy Hook was used as a proving ground for the military's latest experimental weaponry. Essex County Jail in Newark. The old Essex County Jail was originally built in 1837 and closed in 1970 when a new jail was completed. The jail was constructed for $30,000 when a fire destroyed the county courthouse. The main building was a square, two-story structure with a cell block wing extending from it. Another feature of the grounds was the gallows in the yard used for hanging murderers. But in 1890 to 1909, the prison was expanded. This expansion brought running water and toilets to 300 cells now in the building. A judge ordered the evacuation of the building due to deteriorating structural conditions, and during the move, hundreds of confidential documents were left behind from the DEA's stay, including evidence, wiretapping transcripts, and case files. Shortly after its closure, scenes for the Spike Lee film Malcolm X were filmed there. Gingerbread Castle in Hamburg. The once candy-coated dreams of small New Jersey amusement park can still be seen in the ruins of this fantastical fantasy castle. The Gingerbread Castle was originally a fairy tale themed amusement park. The castle was designed in 1928 by the Austrian architect and set designer Joseph Urban. F.H. Bennett bought the New Jersey property in 1921 to expand his operations and open the Wheatsworth Mills. Bennett was inspired to create his version of a fairy tale castle on the property after seeing Urban's set design work at a performance of Hansel and Gretel at the Metropolitan Opera. The castle opened in 1930 and quickly became a popular tourist destination. Unfortunately, by the early 1980s, the castle began its decline from a beloved amusement park to a decrepit castle. Throughout the years, the castle and its surrounding property have gone through many transformations, including being a nightclub and at another point a haunted house. The castle is decaying and falling into a severe state of disrepair. Essex County Isolation Hospital in Belleville. In 1896, the city of Newark in New Jersey acquired a large parcel of land outside the city. Newark already had both a psychiatric hospital and a tuberculosis sanatorium out in the countryside. But what the city needed was a nearby hospital for infectious diseases where the patients would be isolated from the rest of society. Over the following years, various buildings were constructed to house patients, while others, such as a powerhouse, a laundry, and even a theater, were built to help the hospital become self-sufficient. However, the self-sufficiency worked against the hospital in December 1917 when the heating and lighting broke. The staff and patients suffered dreadfully when a cold snap followed, resulting in 24 fatalities and 32 cases of frostbite. In the mid-1920s, the Tri-State Mental Health Council bought this hospital and chose to convert it from a general hospital to one that exclusively treated these with mental health issues. It was then named Overbrook. Like many other institutions, the Overbrook suffered from overcrowding. From the 1930s to 1960s, there were as many as 2,000 or 3,000 patients. However, once new and drastically improved mental illness treatments appeared in the 1960s and 1970s, the numbers at the Overbrook began to dwindle. The Overbrook limped along until the Essex County Hospital Center was opened up just down the road in 2006. This new institution had more cutting-edge programs and a better layout than the old Overbrook. There was no question as to which was the better institution, and the Overbrook closed in 2007. Parts of it were sold for parkland, parts of it for residential development. In 1996, part of the Essex County Isolation Center was taken over by the Garden State Cancer Research Center. However, the research center only inhabited the central administration area and the right wing. The left wing remained abandoned. Ellis Island Immigrant Hospital on Ellis Island. The first public health hospital in the United States exists as a haunting shadow of its former self. The Ellis Island Immigrant Hospital is built on 2 human-made islands constructed from leftover land excavated for the Lexington Avenue subway line. The islands have since been connected, but were originally separated by a ferry basin because of a belief that germs could not travel across a body of water. One island held the general hospital, which consisted of 4 operating rooms, a woman's ward, a pediatric ward, and a maternity ward, and a psychiatric ward. The other island held the contagious disease hospital, built in a pavilion style proposed by Red Cross inspiration Florence Nightingale, which meant patients with different diseases were kept in separate wards. If a child was found to have a FAVIS, a fungal disease of the scalp, they were either outright deported or required to spend at least a year in the hospital undergoing treatment most immigrant families couldn't afford. Children were often abandoned or families split up so they could be accompanied home by a parent. This could be the last time siblings or spouses ever saw each other. The hospital shut down in 1930 after a slow decline due to tightening immigration restrictions in 1954. The islands were officially abandoned by the Coast Guard and declared excess federal property. Proctor Theater in Newark. The Proctor's Palace Theater opened on November 22, 1915, showing vaudeville productions. It replaced an earlier venue, Park Place, by former acrobat Frederick F. Proctor that opened in 1898. The opulent theater finished at a cost of $1 million, and it was designed by John W. Merrow, a nephew of Proctor. Inside were 2 theaters, Proctor's Palace, which had seating for 2,800 patrons, and Proctor's Roof Theater with a capacity for 1,400 guests. By 1929, the Proctor was showing movies exclusively. On May 14th, in poor health, F.F. Proctor sold his company to the Radio Keith Orpheum Corporation, which included the venue in Newark, 4 in New York City, and 6 in New York State. Upon the purchase, the Newark venue was renamed to RKO Proctor's Theater. Frederick Proctor passed away due to a lung infection on September 4th. The general decline of Newark and racial tensions and riots in July 1967 led to a sharp decline in the attendance at the Proctor. Proctor's Theater closed in 1968 when the RKO merged with Stanley Warner. Hinchliffe Stadium in Patterson. The abandoned Hinchliffe Stadium, or City Stadium, is an Art Deco-style Depression-era facility built with public funds in 1932. In addition to baseball, the stadium hosted football games, boxing matches, auto racing, and track and field events at various times during its use. The stadium could host as many as 10,000 spectators before needing to increase its capacity with its portable bleachers. One of the stadium's claims to fame is that it offered professional black sports teams and players a place to compete at a time when they were excluded from major leagues. The stadium was greatly successful during its prime, which lasted into the 1950s. However, shortcomings in maintenance led to a compromise of the structural integrity of the field, prompting Hinchliffe's closure in 1997. Mercer Hospital in Trenton. Back in the late 1800s, the need for medical care in the city of Trenton was growing. In 1982, the Fisk family offered up some land on the west side of the city to the board of directors for the new hospital, dubbed the Mercer Hospital. 3 years later, the hospital was operational, and it had its very own nursing school. In the mid-1970s, a massive demolition project took place around the hospital. Construction on the campus finally ceased shortly afterwards. The completed building had a total of 650,000 square feet of building space, making it one of the largest hospitals in the state. By the turn of the century, the building had expanded all it could, but was rapidly becoming functionally obsolete. In 2005, plans were announced that operations were going to move to a new building in Hamilton. The community was not pleased to hear this. Hamilton was quite a distance from the neighborhood where Mercer Hospital stood. Residents were concerned that an ambulance dispatch from the new hospital would take too far long to reach them and then get back. By 2011, the hospital closed its doors. They shuttered everything but their satellite emergency room, which was kept open in order to appease the angry citizens. However, 2 years later, the ER had closed as well. So guys, those are the top 10 abandoned places in New Jersey. Make sure you like for part 2 if you guys want to see another New Jersey video, or leave a comment if you want to see a different state. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe for more. Peace.